A big hello to everyone and welcome to the Collins webinar. First of all, I would like to wish you all a very happy National Education Day. Uh, as you all know, we have had a particularly difficult year due to the pandemic. Now, how do we make sure that we remain healthy and in good spirits? I was so pleased when I read the manuscript of Superfood for Superheroes. The book tells you exactly what you need to hear at a time like this. Eating right will help you win the fight. So the book will help you fire up your superfast with these 10 super scrumptious recipes that use superfoods which are available in our kitchen at all times. And it does this in the most wonderful way by sharing stories around foods such as orange, honey, turmeric, drumsticks. So Superfoods for Superheroes has been beautifully written by Singapore-based author Namita Mehra and comes to life with fantastically done illustrations by Cecilia Hidayat. Namita is an entrepreneur who created greater awareness about the Indian cuisine through her company called Indian Spice Box. She has been a lifelong foodie and is inspired by a vision to give back to children in need through her venture. She has previously written two cookbooks, and now I'll give the mic over to Namita. Over to you, Namita.
Thank you, Mehra. Hi, everyone. I am Namita Mehra. As Mehra said, I'm based in Singapore. I have been a writer, I would say, most of my life. I've been writing since I was very little, but became an official children's book writer just a few years ago with my first book, which is called The Magic Spice Box. And I actually, as Mehra mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company here in Singapore called Indian Spice Box, where I help people, especially people who live outside of India, understand about our amazing spices and the benefits of spices to our health and wellness. And I was actually promoting my spice box. So I took the masala dabba that we all have in our kitchen, the Indian spice box. I wrote a cookbook. I made a company. I created a box, a modern version. And that's what my business is. And each box that we sell, which goes together with the cookbook, helps to feed underprivileged children in India. We funded over 350,000 meals so far, and we have a goal of funding 1 million meals by 2025. And the mission of everything I'm doing really is to help people to eat better. All of us are so fortunate. We have access to amazing ingredients and spices, and not everyone has that. So I wanted to even help those who are less fortunate to have access to hot and nutritious meals. And so we're doing that with our charity partners. We work with a partner called Anamrita, and they're doing a lot of work all over India. But going back to my children's author story and how that began, I was actually at a school fair, a Christmas fair at one of the international schools here in Singapore. And I saw that children were just flocking to my spice box and all of the colors. And they were asking me questions. What's this yellow one? What's this red one? What does this one do? Ooh, can I touch this one? Can I smell this one? And I just wrote down the words Magic Spice Box. And 2 years later, that became my first book. And so the connection between ingredients like spices and me telling stories, I'm basically a food writer at heart, has been a very strong one. And for me, after the Magic Spice Box, I knew I would continue to write stories for children that were about food and ingredients. And the next one, which is the one I'm here to talk to you about today, became this wonderful book, which is Superfoods for Superheroes. The inspiration for this book began with actually a spice, which is turmeric. And I started researching about it. And even in the Magic Spice Box, I talked about this, about how it's such a powerful spice and how it can really help our bodies build immunity and what is the active ingredient in turmeric. I was fascinated to learn, for example, when you mix black pepper with turmeric, it makes turmeric even more powerful because there's an active ingredient, a compound called curcumin in turmeric, and that's the one that gets activated with the help of black pepper. So I started to, just out of the love of food and ingredients, of being a mom and having a young child. Now I have two children. I have a 7-year-old boy, and Shivam, who's the star of the book, and also Anya, who's also in the book. She's 2. But really, my journey began with, since my son was little, I wanted to, I think with most parents, you spend so much time just making sure your children are looking after themselves and you're looking after them and just eating well. Are you eating your vegetables? Are you eating balanced meals? Um, you know, there's so much effort and love and coordination and time and patience that goes into every meal. And sometimes it's really hard because you get a lot of pushback from children on eating healthy, on eating vegetables. And so, I started simply by telling my son when he was just 2 or 3 these stories. Oh, this, did you know like the Incredible Hulk is green because he eats broccoli? And my son was eating broccoli faster than you could believe, and that's when the idea of superhero, superfood started to creep into my head. It actually began, the journey of the book began as an article. So I write for a very prominent parenting website and blog here called Sassy Mama. And I wrote an article for them in 2016, I think, called Superfoods for School Kids. And, from there, I sort of started to write the stories. And what I wanted to do is really think about if we as parents, educators, even children are spending the time and effort to eat and to cook and to put a meal in front of us, how can we make all of that effort worthwhile? And that's really the power of superfood. It's a superfood. It's giving you extra nutrition. It's nutrient dense. And so, nutrient rich and nutrient dense foods are the ones that we really want to emphasize, because we can sit and eat a meal, but how nutritious is that meal and what are we putting in that meal that can really boost our energy or give us extra vitamins or give us extra protein, extra calcium? So, there's just, I'm not a nutritionist, but as a parent, I realize that if I'm going to put a lot of effort into this, I want a good return on that investment. So I want to focus on the ingredients that are really going to benefit me and benefit my child, more importantly. And I think putting the child at the center of the story is really important, in terms of, it's about them. Like, no child wants to be nagged about eating. Eat your vegetables, eat this. Why aren't you eating this? This has this. You don't want to be lectured. So another sort of really important thing for me was to keep it fun and to keep it light and to keep it uh, a choice that a child makes themselves because they're feeling empowered and excited to do so. And that was really the approach when I wrote the book. So there's 10 stories in the book, which focus on the different superfoods, and you can see all of them here. You've got avocado, and you've got oranges and sweet potato. You've got ginger and turmeric. You've got greens like spinach, and then you have drumstick or moringa. You also have coconut and pomegranate, sweet potato. So I wanted to emphasize, fruits and vegetables, obviously. There's a lot of, when people think about superfoods, the thing that comes to their mind is usually like some really exotic ingredients, like acai or chia. And like there's all this trend around like, oh, superfood, it must be something really, but actually like really out there, or like I have to go to a special health shop to buy it, or like how will I find it, like cacao. And there's some really good ones. Not to say there's anything wrong with any of those superfoods, they're all wonderful, but one of the things I write in the book is my child isn't going to choose chia pudding over regular pudding. So I wanted to just bring attention to the regular foods that children enjoy eating. Just like most children love coconut water, but you can use coconut in so many ways. There's the milk and there's the meat. You can eat it. You can use the milk for curry. Most children love oranges, and I found myself as a parent offering orange vitamins in these gummy forms rather than focusing on the original guy. And then I had to really make the effort with my child to bring it back to this. there's so many temptations to buy, sugar-covered gummies, which are orange, chewy gummies. And it's okay. We can still have those. Like, I think there's a place for everything. But I want children and families to enjoy real foods together and to make choices that are super on the superfoods. Um, so yeah, that's my journey. And I wanted to, without being too lectury, I'm going to actually start reading a story from the book. So speaking of oranges, I'm going to actually read you that story um, about the orange. And all of the stories here, there's 10 different stories about 10 superfoods, and each story is followed by a recipe. So we try to keep the recipes really simple, easy to follow. You can make them, children can make them, older children, or you can sort of do it together. We've tried to really do some fun ones. We know children love chocolate, so this is a chocolate, but there's actually avocado in it. It's a chocolate mousse, and you can enjoy the silkiness and the nutrition of the avocado and still enjoy sort of a chocolatey flavor. And then you have soups, and each of the recipes also has after the story, you also have a fact, a super fact, which gives you some of the key nutritional benefits about that superfood. So this is the spinach, the greens, and then we talk about why spinach is really good for you, and there's an easy soup recipe there. Okay, so I'm going to read you all the orange story. I'm going to try to do this in the Zoom format. So maybe I'll just show you the picture first and then do some reading.
Yeah, we can see the picture, yes.
Okay. Should I hold it up or can I read it?
No, you can read it. No, you can read it. We'd love to hear you read.
Okay, super. Okay, orange. So each of the superfoods has their own special superpower. So this one is immunity. Mommy, it's time for my vitamins, called out Shivam. When Shivam was just 4 years old, he had his tonsils taken out. After the surgery, Dr. J said to him, "You've been a true superhero, young man. Now remember to eat healthy and stay strong. Promise me that you will have lots of germ-fighting vitamin C every single day." Shivam kept his promise. Just as Mum was about to hand over his favorite vitamin C gummies, she had a thought and stopped. "Those are my favorite, Mummy. Why aren't you giving them to me?" So you can see here, Mummy has this moment of, should I give him the vitamin or should I give him the orange?
Yes.
He's not too happy about that. "Wait a minute," said Mum. "I just bought a big box of beautiful oranges at the old bazaar. Why don't we eat some fresh oranges instead for our vitamin C boost today?" Shivam felt disappointed. He loved his chewy vitamin C gummies, and eating a whole orange seemed like a lot of work. A lot of children are so reluctant to eat fruit because it just feels like work. Besides, he didn't really like the seeds or the fiber or even the pulpy bits. He was worried that he might swallow a seed and then a tree would grow in his stomach. "Nature gives us vitamins too," explained Mummy. "It's always better to get vitamins from real foods when we can." She held up the jar of vitamins in one hand and an orange in the other hand. So she's like, "Weigh your options. Both of these give us superpowers to fight off germs. Which one would you choose?" Now, most of the children are going to choose the sugar-covered gummy vitamins because they're designed to look like candy. But this is really, really good for you, and it's much cheaper and much more easily available, and it does the same thing in a much more natural and healthy way. And we have this beautiful illustration. My illustrator is from Bali, Ubud. Her name is Cecilia. She's amazing, and she's got this lovely uncle selling santra.
And what is the script there? What does it read?
Oh, it says santra, Hindi.
Okay, it's set in Bali, but you have Hindi there.
Oh no, the illustrator lives in Bali.
Lives in Bali, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All our settings are in India.
In India.
Yeah. Shivam stared longingly at his vitamin C gummies, but he knew that the big, juicy orange was probably the right choice. It was pretty awesome, that a single orange could give him all the vitamin C that he needed for the whole day. Mom showed Shivam how to carefully cut an orange. She even snuck in a quick lesson about fractions. First, she cut the orange into 2 halves. Then she cut each half into 4 wedges, finally revealing 8 pieces. So, very clever mother over here. Also putting in a lesson about fractions. It's funny because my son was recently going through this when we were doing the learning from home. We were doing all kinds of things like this to make learning fun. Now, put a piece in your mouth like this. So I don't know if you've ever tried this, but we used to do this when we were little, and I've seen my son do this as well. Is when you put the piece of orange into your mouth and then you make like a funny face. I'm not gonna demonstrate that now, but that's the funny.
No. Most of us had done that, but not just orange, quite other fruits too. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now put a piece in your mouth like this. Mom popped a wedge in her mouth and made a funny face. Shivam did it too. Yum, this orange is sweet and fun to eat, he said. Shivam pretended to be a zombie and chased his little sister, as all big brothers do, constantly troubling the little sister. Anya was not amused. She was busy slurping on some fresh orange juice. So this is one of my favorite illustrations from the book. This is my little one, Anya. And this is actually, it looks so true. It looks so realistic because that's really how she looks when she loves her orange juice. So she's been drinking that since she was little. So she was busy slurping on some fresh orange juice. Mommy, can we please make popsicles with orange juice tomorrow? I'm sure Anya would enjoy them too. Mum smiled. Great idea. We made lots of popsicles and ice lollies with fresh fruit after your surgery. You love those. So I don't know if there's anyone here who's had their tonsils taken out, but if you have that surgery, which Shivam actually did when he was little, then you can't, it's very difficult to swallow.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things they do with children love the most about surgery is they allow you to have ice cream,
yes,
or ice lollies. So actually after his surgery, we used to make a lot of these ice lollies, but with natural juices, like with fruit. So you can actually make watermelon lollies, orange lollies. You can make your own lollies at home, and you don't even need all the sugar. You can add in honey and other more natural things, and they're super delicious. So that's what Mummy's reminding him of that. Maybe it was time to enjoy vitamin C in its natural form for a while, Shivam thought. Dr. J would certainly approve. So Dr. J is the one who told him, you have to have vitamin C every day to keep your immunity boosted and to keep your, all those germs away. And of course, he's stuck with that promise, but he was getting a bit too used to those delicious gummy vitamins covered in sugar in the jar. And now he's finally thinking, maybe I should give orange a chance. And he's realized that with an orange, you can actually even make popsicles, enjoy the juice. So it's actually more fun. This little, ordinary looking thing, you can do lots of things with it. And actually inspired by this story, this is such a wonderful illustration.
Looks beautiful.
You can see the orange popsicle here. And actually this is the recipe that you see. This is a wonderful recipe, and we make these quite often. The great thing about these popsicles, when you make them at home, you can buy these molds. They're quite easy to get, even on Amazon and online nowadays. But you just can really have some fun with it. So when we make them, sometimes we put a little bit of orange juice. This recipe, you can actually puree the berries, which are also very high in vitamin C. You can put one layer of the pureed berries, then you can put one layer of like vanilla yogurt. You can put then the orange juice, and you can really create. And I've seen people on Instagram and like food bloggers put in like full slices of fruit so that when it freezes, you can actually, it looks beautiful. People put in pomegranate seeds. You can really get creative with this process of making popsicles at home. So that's our recipe here, and you can see you've got some fun little instructions.
Looks yum.
The super fact here on each, like I said before, each of our stories has a super fact, and I just wanted to read this one to you. That says vitamin C is found not only in citrus fruit, which are sour and tangy fruits like oranges. So other citrus fruits are lemons, lime, nimbu, grapefruit, but also vitamin C can be found in berries. So this is something that some people don't know. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and even amla, which is the Indian gooseberry, is very high in vitamin C. And other fruits, so pomegranate is very high in vitamin C, and also kiwi fruit. And this is something a lot of people don't know, is that there are vegetables which are very high in vitamin C, such as broccoli and capsicum. So capsicum has a lot of vitamin C in it as well. So yeah, who knew this simple, humble orange is a superfood, and you could get some superpowers with that. So that's the story of orange, and we have many other wonderful stories in this book.
Ma'am, very nice book, and I also sometimes stuck orange in my mouth. That's what Preetam Yadav says on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'm sure most of us, we've done all these interesting things when we were kids.
Yeah.
We were sometimes also reprimanded for, but then in the hindsight, it's fun, isn't
Yeah,
it?
definitely.
Yes. So wonderful, wonderful read there, and we could go on the entire day because it was such a nice experience to hear. I'm sure even to all the people on Facebook and here at Zoom. However, due to the paucity of time again, we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
And shall I ask you my first question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, well, this comes to junk food. Yeah, the so-called junk food. So the first question is, junk food can be very yummy. Is there anything like healthy junk food? If I were a mom and, or a pop. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we all, battle this as parents, and it's not just with our kids, but I think even we sometimes get tempted by junk food. So what I would say is, you can't eliminate these things because we're surrounded by it, but what you can do is to recreate them in healthier ways. And so what we do is, one of the recipes under sweet potato is called fearless fries. So they're actually baked sweet potato fries. Now, most children are going to be like, excuse me, that is not a French fry. But you have to try. And one of the things that I've said in the book is you can't try once and give up because there will be pushback. Okay. Like, no child is going to look at a sweet potato fry and then a McDonald's French fry and be like, I want that. So it's just a question of saying, well, we don't have French fries tonight. We have these fries and I've made them yummy. I've put chaat masala on it, or you can have it with a little bit of this delicious sauce, or let's be kind and say, okay, have some ketchup, even though it's filled with sugar and absolutely has no nutrition, but it's okay. So it's a slow and steady progress. We make burgers at home, but we make veggie burgers. We put veggies, spinach in them and kale in them. And, it's easy to sneak things in. And again, I would say resist that temptation because you want children to really embrace fruits and vegetables in their purest form. But I think there are opportunities where it works to, for example, my son loves pasta. So we make a pasta sauce at home. For many years, I bought I lived in the US for 12 years before moving to Singapore. You get so many ready-made pasta sauces. I think even in all your grocery stores there. It's so tempting for a busy mom. It's so tempting to just pick up that jar and just dump it in. But when you start reading the ingredients, it's a little bit horrifying because the minute you can't, first of all, there should never be more than 5 ingredients on anything, on any label. And the minute you're going past that, then it's things that you have no idea what they are. You can't pronounce them. There's sugar added in everything. And that's a huge problem. Like, why are you adding sugar in a pasta sauce? It's not a sweet thing. There's no reason for it to have sugar. You'd be amazed how many things have sugar in them. So what we started to do is to make a pasta sauce at home. We put about 8 or 10 vegetables in it, and we put a lot of tomato puree, and we make it on the weekend, or like we make it just once or twice a month, and then we freeze them in batches. And now when we want a pasta, we want to make pasta, we just pull out the sauce. And so, pasta is also considered fast food. But I think when children think of fast food, they're primarily thinking of burgers and fries. And again, I think if once in a while you say, hey, today, how about instead of McDonald's, we try to do a baked chicken nugget at home, and try this. Like, how about we do it together? Like, involve the child, make it a fun thing. It becomes more of an active thing rather than the passive act of just sitting there and eating something at a fast food place. And you've kind of made something new and different. And I find when children get involved as well in the process, they find everything much yummier. Here, you help me bake these fries or cut these fries or season these fries. You help me make these burger patties. Let's make them together. Of course, you can put in some secret ingredients, even if it's not a veggie burger, even if it's any other kind of yummy burger. You can still, a homemade version is still going to be so much tastier. And then, lastly, I think I just keep those veggies all the time around the child. So even when we're having like once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we have tacos. You get the ready-made shells and you get the different stuffings. But my son sees the spinach there, and he thinks it's lettuce, but I said it's okay. It's green. He knows he has to put these layers. He knows that that's gonna go in. So I think it's just a question of making it fun, repeated exposure, making it an active experience where the family is doing it together. The taco experience is really fun because we have 7 or 8 things on the table and you build your own taco. You can make your own wrap. You can build your own burger. There's a lot of these things going on which can become fun for children. When you build a burger, yes, you can put cheese, but then what else will you put? That's when you want them to grab the avocado or the tomato or the baby spinach, and again, just
or the onions.
The simple example of a superfood switch, and I don't talk about this in the book, but instead of lettuce, take spinach. Lettuce has very little nutrition value. It's actually, it's primarily water, whereas spinach has much. And so just don't even bother with lettuce. We don't even bother with it. We just put spinach and kale. So we take the most nutrient dense green leafy vegetables that are pleasant to eat raw, and then we put those as option. So again, it's what you're putting in front of the kids. If they don't see that, they're not going to like it. So if you're doing it from when they're young, my 2-year-old is chomping on fruits and vegetables all day long. So
wow.
Yeah, she loves it, but that's what she sees in front of her. And not to say we don't eat cookies and other things, but it's always in a balance of everything. I'm not trying to say like we're just some veggie eating family. We're not. Of course, we have pizza. Again, pizza is a great example. My son is obsessed with pizza. And I can't actually get him to put any toppings on it which are healthy. And it's okay because if he's had his broccoli and his kale in one meal, then it's okay to have pizza as a cheat meal once a week. And every Thursday night is pizza night for us. And it's okay. You're going to have to just balance it out,
Yeah. And this leads me to a lot of questions now. Having read a little bit about you. And also coming to all the teachers who are here and also the students who are here, this is wonderful education, isn't it? Because you understand what various foods are, the kind of recipes, and not only that, you also understand what various and interesting vitamins and minerals they have. Yeah, the composition of all these things. And it could be a good science class or an EVS class for them. And if you
and I want to say thank you to all the teachers. This has been an incredibly hard year, and I just say thank you and salute you. And it's such a challenging time for teachers, and I really hats off to all the incredible hard work you do. So thank you for being there for our children during this tough time. And I know it's really been very challenging for you. So I just want
what a time to thank all the teachers, Namita.
To teachers.
Yeah, today's we are celebrating the National Education Day in India. So wonderful time to thank all of them.
Yeah.
So coming to my next question, you brought in this topic of superfoods, isn't it? And there is a lot about superfoods being talked about, even in the internet, in the media, and elsewhere. So my question is, what exactly are these superfoods? And what are the advantages of superfoods over perhaps any food?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this earlier. It's basically a nutrient-dense food. So like I said, in a simple example of a leafy vegetable, you have cabbage, you have lettuce, you have green, you have Swiss chard and kale and spinach and so many. In fact, we have a fun quiz in the book because so many people don't even realize there's so many kind of greens.
Yeah.
We have this page where it says, "Can you name these greens?" And you can see so many different kinds of greens. So these are all nutrient dense greens. You've got methi and you've got the mustard leaves, which we use in which we call saag, sarson ka saag. So it's just those have more nutrition. They are more nutrient dense, and so that makes them super foods compared to a cabbage or a lettuce or so when you're looking at a side by side, and again I always have a disclaimer, I'm not a nutritionist, but when you're looking at side by side comparisons of the nutrition table of a lettuce versus a spinach, then it's very evident that spinach has superior nutrition benefits, and that's what makes it a superfood. Now, there are lots of nutritionists and food experts and even prominent ones in India that have written on the topic of superfoods, and there's so many superfoods. It's not a limited list, and that's why we call them superfoods for superheroes. The emphasis here is kid-friendly superfoods. So I wanted to pick, again, easily available. I know kids are going to like them. They're tasty. They're mostly delicious. There's nothing that's like weird tasting. There's no spirulina. That's a green which has the highest nutrition. But again, I didn't select that superfood because it's hard to find spirulina. Children don't like spirulina. So I just wanted to emphasize the foods for kids that are kid approved and kid friendly and family friendly that we're going to find easily in the market downstairs or down the street, and I wanted just people to start making those simple choices.
And perhaps you could grow them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your backyard or in your garden.
Yeah,
anywhere.
Definitely. Yeah.
So the next question is it stems from what I'd read about you.
Yeah.
So the question is, yes. So the question is about, how do you manage to be gluten-free?
How do I manage to be gluten-free?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I mean, I read it somewhere in one of your interviews. So
okay.
Yeah.
Like what led me there, or how do I do it?
Yeah. What led you to be gluten-free? What is the problem with gluten? Because most of our foods have a lot of gluten, right?
Yeah. So gluten is an inflammatory grain. It creates inflammation in the body, and it's hard to digest. I mean, it's a part of a grain, but basically, those grains in general are hard to digest, and there are a lot of people who have an intolerance to specific grains like wheat, or even my son, when he was 2 years old, was diagnosed with a wheat intolerance. So he actually didn't eat any wheat for 2 years, and then he outgrew that intolerance. So a lot of children, and these intolerances actually manifest in very different ways, and that's the tricky part. For him, it was some skin issues, so some eczema as a baby. And then a lot of upper respiratory issues, a lot of congestion, a lot of coughs and colds. And so a lot of that improved with eliminating wheat from his diet. And again, this was done under the guidance of a doctor and with blood tests and proper tests to support it. So there's a bit of a trend and a fad where people are like, oh, I'm not eating gluten anymore. And it's like, you really need to substantiate why you're suddenly eliminating an entire food group. And there needs to be good medical reason for that. So again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, but the reason that I had to quit because I did some tests and it showed, this is a little bit personal, but since you've asked me, I'll share, but I wasn't able to conceive. I wasn't able to get pregnant. And it took me a couple of years. And then when I did some of the tests, there was a lot of inflammation in my body. And even though in general I was feeling fine, internally there was some kind of war going on. And so one of the recommendations to me was to make certain food eliminations to reduce the inflammation in my body. And that's when I started, as well, incorporating a lot of turmeric and anti-inflammatory foods into my thing. And, it led me obviously into having two beautiful children. So, yeah, it was something again that I knew something was wrong because the tests led me there. And then, I had to make
Okay.
those choices. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next question is about the spices.
Yes.
So you run an organization called the Indian Spice Box,
Yeah.
right? You lived, I would call you an international human being because you're born in Nigeria, you lived in the UK, in the US, in India, and in Singapore, right? So
Yeah.
what are your favorite spices from each of these continents?
I mean, honestly, I love all the Indian ones, but I would say, yeah, my favorite Indian spice is definitely turmeric, is haldi.
Okay.
Haldi.
Haldi.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I have deep love for haldi because I just think, it just does so many amazing things, and it's also, an easy spice to introduce to children. Like I tell a
Hmm.
lot of non-Indian people, like, please put it in your rice and put it in, your soups and your stews. And, I always laugh that Oprah Winfrey made haldi, like made turmeric so trendy because one day she was on her show, like I think 7, 8 years ago, she was like, oh, we should all be drinking golden lattes. And, they
Wow.
made it, they made it
Okay.
such. Yeah, even at Starbucks, I think they have everywhere now in all these trendy places, you have like turmeric lattes and everyone's become crazy for turmeric. But it's a good thing. So I'm happy.
Very good thing. Yeah.
And I always joke that we've been forced to drink haldi doodh since, and we've seen our grandparents drinking that and being like, what is this? What are you drinking? But this is actually they've known this. This has been a practice in our culture for so many generations, and it's just going now to the more recently to the Western world. But so
Hmm.
that's definitely my favorite spice. Turmeric is, and I think oof,
From
I don't
Africa,
I don't know
Nigeria.
what spices are. I don't know what spices even exist there, to be honest. But I would say, yeah, I mean, we're definitely the spice nation. I would say
Hmm.
even black pepper, if I was to think of a Western spice, but it's come from India.
It's come
Black
from
pepper.
India. Hmm.
Yeah. So I can't think of what there's. I
Hmm.
enjoy a lot of the. I do like spicy food, so I enjoy a lot of the hot sauces that come from the US.
Hmm.
Um, they have a lot of really hot peppers and chilies that grow there.
Hmm.
So not quite spice, but I enjoy a lot of the condiments that come specifically from, even Tabasco is one of my favorites, and that's a US, uh, you know, American thing. So, but yeah, my love is really for spices from India, and India is where most of the best ones come from. So,
And I just read somewhere because we are a chili loving nation.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was only the Portuguese who introduced chili to India, and before that, we never had chili in India.
Yeah, there's such a fascinating stories
Story.
around spices actually.
Yeah.
And
Can you share one of them? Would love to hear any
I
that
mean,
comes to your memory.
I in my first book, The Magic Spice Box, I talk about the journey of black pepper, and I do it again in a very kid-friendly way. But it
Hmm.
was interesting that from Cochin and from the Malabar coast, and now the Malabar pepper is like
Hmm.
the revered black pepper in the world. But that's where pepper came from, and then it made its way into through the Suez Canal and into Europe and then all the way over. But I always tell the kids that at one point, and I've written a poem around this, that pepper was more precious than gold at one point,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it was actually a currency.
Yes.
It was used to buy and used to trade, and
Yes.
so the story talks about. People saying, "Oh, our food is so bland. Like, please give us your pepper," because they literally didn't have any spices in Europe or in the Americas, and they were so desperate to have that. So it actually the value of pepper really went up, and it became more precious than gold, which I think was so fascinating.
Exactly. In fact, if we are to say that what we are now, what we are today, is perhaps due to pepper.
Yeah,
Otherwise, Europe wouldn't have found a sea route and come searching for India, isn't it?
that's true.
And
So the
yes,
spice route and the silk
yeah,
route, like all of these trading
yes,
routes,
yes.
are all out of the love for
Love for
food and
spices.
flavors and yeah, things, beautiful things.
Yeah, how life changes
Yeah.
because of just a spice. Yeah. Uh, now, the next question is about how to manage two professions at one time. So, this is a question from a surgeon, a person who wants to be a surgeon. I want to be a surgeon and pursue my dream of being an author. How can I manage both and not get distracted? Your
Oh,
thoughts?
that's such a loaded question. I think being a surgeon is a pretty intense. I come from a family of doctors actually. So my dad and my sister are both eye surgeons. But I would say that those are very high commitment, long working hour jobs. But also, so is being an entrepreneur. And I'm running a small business. It's very small by all means, but very meaningful and is having making some little social impact in the world. But I'm also a mom of two, so it's a lot. I would say that for me, writing um, has been the calming factor and the saving grace. It gives me, it's the thing that gives me joy. And I think if you're that person who just feels so good after you write or when you're writing, it's almost like meditative and it has a very positive influence in your life, then you will sort of carve out the space for it. And of course, it's easier said than done. Like some people are very disciplined, and come what may, they will write for 1 hour a day. That they will say that, I have to write for 1 hour a day. Even if I'm writing rubbish, I'm just going to sit there 10 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, whatever it is. And they do it every single day. And I'm not that disciplined in the sense that that doesn't work for me. My creative process is a little bit different. Like I have to have the idea like flash into my head and I have to be in the zone. And sometimes you know, some of the stories come out of me in like 2 minutes, and then some could be like I'm battling for days and then suddenly I'll have the idea. But for me, it's a little bit more, I'm a little bit more of those unpredictable creative people that has to like get in the zone and then write. I make the time for it because it makes me happy. And I think when it's not an hour every day, sometimes it's 4 hours in a day. Sometimes I write the whole day because I have to finish a book or I've got a new story in my head and it needs to be done. So the whole day could go by and I could just be revising a story. I think for the surgeon, you need to think about do you want this to be like if you want this to be like a career, if you see yourself as a writer, you want to see that book on the shelf, then I would say take that first step to put in some discipline. If you're a surgeon, then you're a little bit more disciplined than me, hopefully, and you'll be able to carve out that 10 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour every day where you're just writing. You just do it and you do it every day. It's like doing yoga or going to the gym. You're just very disciplined about it. And I would also say one other thing that for me has been hugely beneficial as a writer is to have a group. It can be a very isolating experience, but I joined a writer's circle here in Singapore. They're all picture book writers. The genre that I write in currently is what we call picture books, so they're highly illustrated books. And I joined a group of uh, writers and illustrators who meet once a week, and we bring our work. So we every week we bring a story, we print it out, we print out a copy for everyone, and then we go around and we critique. So you read out your work, everybody reads out their work one by one, and that's been a huge driving force and factor. And in fact, at the back of my book, you'll see a huge acknowledgement to my writing family, as they call them. And I think if you can join some kind of writing circle like this for the genre that you're writing in, there's a lot of resources on this. In the children's book space, we have SCBWI, which is the Society of children's book writers and illustrators worldwide. It's a wonderful organization. And that's actually how I met this critique group. But yeah, I would say definitely don't do it in isolation. It helps to have accountability and motivation from other people who are trying to do similar things.
Yes, and I think that would also allow these budding writers to get ideas, and also, get a good thought of what kind of story they should narrate. And these circles will also help them understand what is in trend and what is not so much in trend. Because end of the day, writing also needs your readers to read and like it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all bounce ideas off each other, and then we do
Yes.
line by line critiques. There have been stories I've written where the whole last 2 pages has been cut out, and they're like, no, 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 don't take it that direction. So big changes can happen, little changes can happen, lots of idea generating can happen. And more than anything, you feel the struggle together. It's not easy being a writer. It's very fulfilling, but it's also like really hard. Because you're always self-sabotaging. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. Most writers are like, I'm terrible at writing. I'm such a bad writer. Like every second writer you meet, feels that they're not a good writer. So it's a hard choice, but it's a beautiful choice because you're able to express so much. But a lot of writing has to do with revising, editing, revising. You probably revise each, and there's so much of that. So you have to really, have that deep love for the process as well. And I think doing it with people around you who are also in that same journey just helps a lot.
Exactly, and great suggestions and thoughts to all the budding writers, whoever is wanting to write, both kids and also the parents and teachers.
Yes, please write all your stories. Everyone has so many stories in their past, in their culture, from their families. There's a huge emphasis on writing own voices stories. Like that's a big trend at the moment, which is like, tell the story that only you can tell. Like, what's a story that only you can tell? And that's when you can really dig deep and start writing. But yeah, everyone has such beautiful stories to share. So please write.
Exactly. And I think this would be my second last question, given the time. However, let me try asking you. Yeah. Have you ever tried out the recipes in your book with your children? If so, please tell something that you would want us to try.
Of course, I've been cooking these recipes for years. I wouldn't put them in the book.
Yeah, I think.
Actually,
please do share.
Yeah, no, I definitely have some favorites. I also wanted to say that each of the recipe is tested by 4 to 5 other parents. So I actually create a recipe testing. This time it was easy. I did it on WhatsApp. I did a recipe testing group, and each person gives me feedback, and about 4 or 5 moms. And again, this is after I've been making the recipe. 4 or 5 parents, not just moms. We have some foodie dads also. Who give me very minute, and I send them a whole list of questions. So it goes through a very rigorous process. Actually, there's a very fine art to recipe writing. And my first book, before I even started writing children's book, was a cookbook. So I've actually gone through a lot of that rigor. My favorite recipe would have to be this smoothie. It's the nut power smoothie. It's so delicious and so easy to make. It doesn't involve any cooking. And actually, for children just starting out, or, just looking for like a fun and quick and rewarding process, it's just great to do no cook recipes. Like, this just takes a few minutes. You just have to have all the ingredients, and you're going to put in some bananas. You can do a nut milk. There's a big trend now around nut milk. But again, a lot of people, dairy doesn't suit them, or they don't want to have dairy for multiple reasons, health reasons or other reasons. You can take almond milk, which is very easy to make at home, but you do get them easily now in Indian grocery stores as well.
Now, I think there is this big thing about soy milk.
Yeah, soy milk is not I don't want to get into, again, it's a bit nutritionally controversial, I would say.
Okay.
So I would stay away from soy milk for children. There are some hormonal issues associated with it, but nut milks are very safe. So You've got almond milk in this recipe. You've got bananas. You've got dates, which are so lovely and sweet, but natural sweet. So again, that helps skip the sugar. And then you've got peanut butter, which again, some people don't like peanut butter. I know it's not super popular in our Indian culture as it is in the West, but you can also try other butters. There's cashew butter, and actually in this smoothie, it's quite a subtle taste. And then you've got cacao. So you want some element of chocolate. And actually, I know there are chocolate peanut butter combinations, in which case you can skip this. Cacao is just a very super foodie version of chocolate. So rather than putting in chocolate chips or cocoa powder, cacao is without all the sugar and it's a purer form. And the smoothie is, so once you have all the right ingredients, it literally takes like less than a minute to make, because you're just gonna whiz it all together, and it's so energizing and just refreshing and delicious. It's one of a favorite of mine. And then I would say another favorite would be the soup. We love soups in our family, and the spinach soup is again super easy to make. And it's just very tasty. And actually, the same soup can be used as a pasta sauce as well. We tried that, and it's delicious as a pasta sauce as well. And again, you can play with this in terms of, do you want to add cream? Do you want to add cheese? Like how, heavy or light do you want it to be? But it's again quite simple and easy and delicious. So those are some of my favorites. But of course, I love all the recipes in the book.
Exactly. Otherwise, you wouldn't have even tried them. And I just love the names there. Superhero soup. I mean,
Yeah,
is that the name on?
We try to stay in theme with our recipes.
Okay. But otherwise, it is not called superhero soup. It's called something else?
The spinach soup.
Okay, it's called the spinach soup. Wow, spinach is actually a superhero in
Exactly.
itself.
Well, it's one of our superfoods. So.
Yeah. The last question is: any suggestions for parents who are struggling with explaining the benefits of the vegetable to their children as a mother?
The suggestion is to buy this book. I've
Exactly.
done all that hard work for you. I would just say make it fun, tell stories, do the research together. Like very often I just get online with my son and we look at, we Google stuff together. Like just be part of the process. Don't make it lectury. Don't be nagging about it. Like just try to think about it from their point of view. And again, that was the absolute strategy that I took. And I'm practicing this. So I have children of the ages that are doing this resistance and all of this. So I would just say, food is supposed to be and should be and is how we bond as people, right? And how the family can come together. It's supposed to be, it should be again positive and meaningful and joyful experience. So we just don't want to turn it into a battle or a fight, or like, why aren't you eating this and eat this and I made this, you didn't like this. Like we don't want to have, we just don't want it to be that. So we all just need to take a big step back as parents and just say, okay, what is it going to take for me to get my child to make good choices, to make healthier choices? And this is one way to do that. It's one more thing that I, as a writer, can arm you, teachers, parents, educators, and children with. It's knowledge, right? Knowledge is power, and I'm trying to give you knowledge is superpower. So it's really just about doing it in a positive and fun way. I would say that's the most important thing.
Exactly, and food is health, and health is wealth.
Yes, and it's about your health. Like, what do these foods do for you, the child? It's not about mommy trying to win this battle. It's not about me being right and you being wrong or anything like that. It's about, I want to see you get strong. I want to see you play sports hard. I want to see you win that match. I want to see you have energy to do the things that you love to do, So that's the conversation. There needs to be a shift. It's not about, oh, you're so thin, or why aren't you tall enough, or it's not about that. It's about, well, what do you want to do with your life and how can we help you get there? Like you need to have energy to finish that Harry Potter book, or you're going to do, some kind of volunteer work and you need to have some physical strength for it. Like just try to eat. The smallest shift can really help, I think, where you make yourself on the same team. This is we're on the same team, and how can we achieve these goals together? And food and nutrition and health, like you said, is such a core part of that, because that's the fuel that we need to do the things that we love.
Exactly, and that's exactly the fuel to drive a human body's happy minds and so on. Yes. So with that, I think it's the end of the session, and I would like to thank Ms. Namita from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of. Okay, there is one question. Would you like to take? It just popped up. One question, one last question.
Yeah, sure. I can give a quick answer.
A quick answer. Can you please tell about immunity boosting food?
Yeah. So you've got ginger, you've got turmeric, you've got all the vitamin C. So those are the key ones, and then your green vegetables. I would say most of the superfoods that we've covered are all immunity builders to a certain extent, because pomegranate is high in vitamin C. Coconut, the water, the milk, the meat, I mean the flesh,
the kernel,
yeah, exactly, is so rich in minerals again, so that's helping to drive up immunity, because micronutrients are really important. So I would say out of these, definitely the roots like the ginger and the turmeric, all of the vitamin C foods like pomegranate and orange, and as I mentioned, even things like bell peppers or capsicum. These are all immunity boosters. But yeah, you can find so many articles on, you just look up immunity boosting foods. You'd be amazed. It just, the list goes on and on. But I had to pick 10, so here they are.
Yeah. So that's the answer for you, Geetanjali ma'am. She's on Facebook and she's asked the question. So with that, we would love to end the session. And on behalf of Collins and on behalf of all the teachers who are here, and also on behalf of HarperCollins, I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Ms. Namita, who is from Singapore. So she's talking to us live from Singapore right now, for taking off your time and spending your evening with us. So thank you so much. And we wish you all the best for your book. And we request all the teachers to just go through the book, and perhaps you'll be able to enjoy trying these recipes with your children. So with that, we conclude this session. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.